Hello, everyone, and welcome back with Talk with Coach. I'm your host, Becca Goldsberry, Executive Sales and Leadership Coach with Southwestern Consulting. This podcast is all about learning from the best in the business, those who have walked the walk and are ready to share their journeys, lessons, and hard-earned wisdom. We're about to discover some invaluable tips for your brand today that can transform your business or leadership journey. So buckle up and get ready for another episode of Talk with Coach. I'm excited, you guys. Our guest today is Dave VanDeman. Damon?
If you got it,
Damon.
you nailed
Okay,
it.
I got it. Yes. I'm so glad. Awesome. Perfect. Him and I had the pleasure of connecting through a mutual friend of ours, Sherry Sullivan, who is phenomenal. She was a fantastic lone originator, and then she decided to step in the world of entrepreneurship herself. But a little bit about Dave. He spent 23 years as a quality engineer before he noticed that something changed and it changed the direction of his career and eventually his life's work. During a chapter where he was also building a photography business, he kept seeing the same pattern. The most compelling brands were not the ones with the biggest budgets or the most polished aesthetics. They were the ones with the clearest sense of who they are. While the ones that struggled were struggling because of bad design or weak marketing, they were struggling because nobody had ever helped them build the foundation underneath. The insight that led David to found Brand Visioneering, where he applies the precision of engineering methodology to the work most people approach intuitively. His philosophy is simple. We don't guess what's wrong, we engineer what's right. I love that. He works primarily with founders who left corporate to build something on their own. They're skilled, capable people whose brand doesn't yet reflect the quality of what they actually do. His signature program, The Founders Forge, is a 2-week brand intensive that takes entrepreneurs from the brand fog to a clear governing brand blueprint, and in the process quiets the decision paralysis that keeps so many capable founders stuck. David is based here in Indianapolis and believes that the most brand problems aren't creative ones, they're engineering problems waiting to be properly diagnosed. Welcome, Dave, to Talk with Coach. I'm so excited. Now, okay, because when I was reading this, I got really, really excited because I want to know more about Founders Forge because
Well,
I work with a lot of entrepreneurs in a lot of small businesses. And I'm like, I see this almost every day talking with my coaching clients who own a small business,
yeah,
right? Like they got great products. They're phenomenal people. Even I look at my social media, my husband's, and I'm like, how do we do it better? So I have a feeling that's where you come into play.
yeah. There is so much to it, and there are so many people out there preaching things that just cause more overwhelm. The whole message of you got to go viral, you got to post 7 times a day on all the different platforms, right? That unless you're building a social media influencer media company, that advice is a ticket to burnout. So the biggest thing for me is dialing it all back to what absolutely matters most to you, where you want to go, what's your big vision, and then break that down and start being consistent with the message that resonates with all of that. And for me, consistency isn't posting 7 times a day. It's having a message that has a purpose and a meaning and connects with your ideal client. That's the consistency that you need. Whether you post once a week, twice a month, or once a day, 5 times a day, if you don't have a consistent message to start from, everything else is just amplifying more noise because you're scattered. You're thinking, well, I need to post this because I saw one of my competitors do it. Or an influencer I just saw said, hey, you need to talk about these 3 content pillars. It's all good. Some of that advice is useful, but this is the thing that I see out there. Everybody's trying to sell the ticket to running a successful business, but each individual business owner runs their business for them. And we're all different and we all have different ways of defining success. So any one 7-step strategy, it might work for the right person for that strategy, but everybody else, it's going to just cause burnout because they're trying to pretend to be something that they're not.
Point well taken, because I was literally on Instagram last night and I think I ran across, because I was counting because I knew we were going to have this conversation, came across 12 influencers selling some kind of program to help business owners sell their product by posting so amount of time and all this thing. And then there's literally 18, I counted last night within the same hour, different types of app to create your own video, create your own reel, create your story. And I'm like, no wonder why I think all of us coaches, 99s, entrepreneurs are just exhausted with social media because everybody's coming at all of us at the same time and nobody knows exactly what to do and nobody wants to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to somebody to manage our social media when it probably doesn't have to be that hard.
Right. I have an Instagram channel. That's kind of where Instagram and YouTube, those are the two that I focus on. And I don't worry if I'm sick for a week and can't post. That's not the end of the world. We're all human. Those things happen. But yeah, exactly that. It's defining how this is going to work for you. I would much rather have 50 to 100 followers who are actually connected with me and having an engaging conversation than 10,000 followers who liked a reel and then never said anything else to me.
Right.
Right. So a small
Absolutely.
business, a coach, any of those kinds of entrepreneurial things, we don't need to be viral on social media. We need to connect with the people that actually are interested and can benefit from what it is that we do. And that, again, it all goes back to finding that key message based on what it is you're here for. And that's what like you kind of asked, and I don't know that I directly answered the question, but the Founders Forge is designed to do that. It's a 2-week intensive program where we dive into your core values. And that's one that when I say that, a lot of people kind of like, especially if they're from a corporate background, they kind of cringe and they're like, ew, that's like a poster that no one ever paid any attention to because nobody believed in it. Now, to me, core values, those are the non-negotiables in how you show up, how you operate, what you believe in for your business and your customers. So really diving into those and being able to define them as an action, not just a word. So if, for instance, you believe in honesty as a core value, what does that actually mean as an action? Well, it means that I'm going to work with businesses who are only willing to really tell me the truth about where they're at, what their struggles are, all of that, and not try to cover it up because it makes them feel uncomfortable. So honesty to me is that kind of approach to dealing with other people.
And how many entrepreneurs have actually sat down and not just write a creed just because, or a mission statement because everybody knows they need to write a creed or a mission statement,
Yeah.
but literally sit down and like, okay, what do I believe in
Yeah.
as a
Not many.
person? Not many.
No.
I was going to say in the beginning, I know I would say 90% of my coaching clients have never.
Yeah. They might have a vague idea,
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's it.
I get it. I did the same thing in my little intro there. I started a photography business while I was in quality engineering because of all things, we can dive into this, but it was because of roller derby.
Okay,
I started
cool.
taking photos of roller derby games and fell in love with that and started developing my photographic style. The teams started asking me to do headshots, and that became my business. I loved doing the promotional work for roller derby, and then that translated to other businesses. But as I talk to other business owners, they start their business because they're good at something, or they have something that they think they can offer that maybe works better for the certain people or whatever that is, but they don't take the time to think about that deeper meaning for them. They're just like, oh, I'm going to do this because I can quit my day job and I can be a photographer. That was my approach. And I think that's what a lot of people do. And yeah, we just don't take the time to sit back and really dive in and reflect on some of these foundational things. And that's what I've just built this all on is getting people, whether they go through the Forge or not. I have a introductory free webinar that I call Stop the Whirlwind that goes through a couple of these elements. It's all about just slowing down and thinking through some of this stuff so that then you can build a foundation that helps you move forward.
No, I love that. When you're working with other entrepreneurs, what do you see typically when they first come in and they sit down and they're ready to dive in? What are some of like that first 30 minutes as you're diving in, like some of those big ahas? Because I'm sure you're myth busting a lot of things probably in
Yeah.
that beginning, I would assume.
Yeah, like one of the biggest things that I start with is like, and I do it for the shock value, but also because it's true. I literally will tell people, so what do you think branding is? They'll say something, well, like my logo, my website, a couple colors that, whatever. Yeah, I'm like, well, that's cool, but your logo doesn't matter. And they're just like, what? It doesn't matter until you have a message that matters. You think about Nike, the whole swoosh thing. The only reason we care about the swoosh is because there's been 40 plus years of Nike telling you that you could be a great athlete, no matter what your capability actually is. Even if you're an amputee or whatever, you can still be a performance athlete. You can find your greatness, even if the way you are an athlete is just running to the fridge during halftime. They're telling you this message that connects with a lot of people. They connect with the identity of people like Michael Jordan, all these athletes that have been representatives for Nike. If they had, when they picked their logo, if they had picked some little sparkly swipe instead of a swoosh, we'd love that logo just as much. It's not the logo. It's that underlying message that is what connects with people. So when I explain that, they're just like, yeah, I get it. So going through this, like I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not going to give anybody a logo. I have people I can refer if they need it, but I want them to understand that underlying thing before they ever start trying to rebrand if they've already got stuff, or if they haven't developed it yet. Just figure out that foundation first.
I was gonna say is I know don't share like all your details, but if somebody's truly stuck on the message, what's a good exercise for somebody just to, you know, start thinking about what is my message? I know my product, I know the service, I know kind of the why I do it, but how do we help them figure out what that message could be?
That's a great question. And there can be a lot to it, but exactly kind of what you just mentioned, really getting as clear as you can on your why and who your customer is, the ideal client. There's lots of possibilities out there on or worksheets and different things that'll help you define your ideal client. You can use AI to help. I actually have a sheet that walks people through that process. But when you really understand the right person for you to work with, at a level where you not just demographics, and that's what most people focus on. Oh, I work with somebody who's 35 to 50 years old, who's a solo entrepreneur. Maybe they have a family and they drive I don't know, SUV, a nice SUV with some type, that kind of demographic stuff, that's fine. But you want to get into the psychographics. What are they actually thinking about when they're looking for a solution to the problem that you help with? What I typically tell people to do is imagine that person, if they've got kids, the kids have finally gotten to bed and they're just on the couch thinking all of these things that are going on, and they're writing in a journal. What are they writing about? What is it that they're trying to figure out, and what are they afraid of? Maybe they've tried different coaching programs and have had bad experiences or didn't get quite the results they wanted. So they're reluctant to sign up for yet another program, all these kinds of things. When you start to understand them at that level, and then as well as understanding your why, your core values, the way you show up, that combination lets you start writing a message. Hey, I get it. When you're sitting there and the kids have finally gone to bed, but you're worried about whatever this problem is and how you can approach it, I've been there. We can help you get through that next step.
I love that.
That to me is how you start writing that. And then just treat it like a real conversation with a real person. That's especially with AI anymore. Being a real human and talking to people is going to be, I just can't underline how important that is.
Massive. It is massive, right?
Yeah.
I have talked with coaching clients. You hit demographics versus infographics. So whenever people network, they're always telling us the infographics, right? Like, I'm looking for this type of person, but really we need to be, it's more detailed. Go deeper in the kind of person you really want to, you want to
Right.
be introduced to,
Right.
right? That infographics. Like, if you can understand the infographics of pretty much anything, you can ask for referrals. You could probably build your brand. You can create your creed and mission statement better. So I think, that's a huge understanding that nobody ever talks about is demographics versus infographics.
I love that you use the networking example because I've got an example for this.
Yeah.
Insurance agents, right? We all
Yeah.
go to networking event. There's always
Yep.
at least 3 to 5 insurance agents there, if not more. One of the gentlemen in my B&I group, he's a State Farm agent. Okay. He's a great guy, and he's really worked on his messaging. He came to it a little bit naturally. He's got a TV broadcast personality background. A little bit was natural for him. But if you think about that, when an insurance agent stands up at a networking event and say, hey, I'm so-and-so from State Farm, we can help you save 5% on car policies, right? Everybody immediately blank stare. They don't care. What I've really helped develop and the things that he's come up with, it was a story like, you know what? Just last year, right after Christmas, one of my clients' homes burned down. And in that, I was there within 20 minutes of getting the call, showed up and made sure that I understood. I was able to connect with the fire department, their investigation team, make sure we understood what happened, and then reassure the family that they were covered. And I was able to write them a check on the spot so that they could go get a hotel room without worrying where the money was coming from. So if you know anybody who would like an agent that is there when the worst case happens, I'd love to talk to them. That is a completely different introduction at a networking event.
Another way that we have looked at it before instead of demographics and infographics is, are you selling, your um, kind of like your features, your benefits,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
It's completely different than like, here's what we do, right? And then you got your features, which are a little bit better, but then the benefits are really the emotion. Like you got to sell your brand with emotion. Otherwise it doesn't, connect and resonate with people.
Yep.
Yeah,
Benefits, transformation, if you're, especially in the coaching world, right? If you're going from being stuck in and not whatever to being the entrepreneur who shows up with an authentic brand that actually motivates you. That kind of
absolutely.
transformation. Yeah,
That makes such a big difference.
absolutely.
So are you still doing your photography business?
Yeah, I'm never going to hang up my camera. I love
Okay.
photography. I like,
Okay.
if you ever go through I've got a photography website. I specialize in very cinematic Photoshop stuff that looks like it could be a movie poster.
That's
And
awesome.
I love creating that. But at the same time, being completely transparent with that photography,
Yeah.
I could never figure out my brand. I didn't know what my why was.
Mm.
Like I knew I was good at it. I knew I could create some really epic photos, but it was like, what? I'm a photographer. Cool. There's lots of us. I
There's a
never
lot.
really understood.
Yeah.
And then, I started having the conversations with the people that I was doing headshots and website photos and realized they were in the same space. And that's when I started researching and having more conversations with other coaches and just kind of studying what was working. And once it kind of connected, I started deep diving into all the brand stuff. And that's when I started building Brand Visioneering. And what I ended up creating became something that as much as I loved photography, I'm much more passionate about this because I have a why. It's helping other small business owners create a bigger impact by showing up more authentically. And if I can help even just one small business or entrepreneur do that, I've had a bigger impact on the world through them. And that is, yeah, I would, if money weren't a thing, I would do this every day, all day, just because it has that changing effect for people.
Well, I was going to say you're a domino effect,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What you do has a really cool implication, not just on one person, but it would be every client that they touch and then bam, like it's a domino effect. That's the cool part.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's what I want everybody else to realize about the work they do.
Mhm.
That's part of the conversation, right? A lot of people, we all get this kind of underlying almost guilt trip if we want to start a business. People say, well, think about your family. You should stick with your day job because what if it fails, this thing that you want to build? They're almost telling you it's a selfish thing to build your own, go after your dream rather than just staying in your 9 to 5 day job. But to me, you have to reframe that and say, well, what about all the people whose lives you could change by the thing it is that you do? That's huge.
That's massive. I was actually having a conversation with a coaching client on this very same thing because years earlier, their family's like, don't go on your own. Don't start this. You'd be crazy and stupid if you started your own business.
Right.
Why would you start your own? Why? Why would you start your own business? And I have to laugh because, deep inside, like my thought is, well, that's scarcity mentality,
Yeah.
right? It's the fear of the unknown. There's not a consistent paycheck right there in the beginning. There's hard work. So some people are not a good fit to start their own business. And that's okay because we need everybody else to do the other jobs. But we need people to think big, and start their own. So I've had so many they're like, why can't my family support what I'm doing, and stand behind me? And I'm like, a lot of times it's scarcity mentality.
It's scarcity, it's fear. They come from it from a meaningful place,
That's
right?
right.
They truly care, but at the same time, you're right. It's a mindset. Plus, they don't have the vision. They don't understand what it is that that person sees in the work that they can do, and in the transformation or whatever it is. Even if they want to just be a roofing company, right? They're starting something that maybe operates differently than a lot of home contractors who are just out to make a quick dollar, and they'll take shortcuts and everything else just to try to get under budget. If they're taking the other approach and saying, you know what, I'm going to treat my people like family, that can make a huge difference.
Massive difference. So while working with Brand Visioneering, what are some of the best you know, laid out brands that you've seen
Mm,
here
gosh.
recently that really stuck out to you? Like, okay, that's really cool, or that's a good brand. Because we all know the big ones, right? And we've
Right.
seen ones that you're just like, that was a really cool post, but I can't correlate.
Well, you hit me with a struggle question.
Oh, I got you stuck.
I mean, yeah, there's the big ones that we all know,
Yeah.
Nike, Apple, all of those.
Yep.
Coming across a good small brand, it is challenging. I'll be honest. This work is hard to do on yourself. Like, I still have things on my own brand that I'm like, yeah, I need to build that up a little better. But it's all a process, right? Nothing is ever done and then just done. It's always progress over perfection for me. But gosh, I like Garmin. That's a little bit, it's still a big company, but the way they advertise is focused on the adventure kind of aspect
Yeah.
of things. So they've had a really good series of different marketing campaigns that did that in a very, for me, it really connected because I used to be a triathlete as well. So there was some of that.
Okay.
I don't know. I'll have to think on that now that you
Because
brought
as
it
you were
up.
talking, I was even thinking of like regionally brands that like
Yeah.
stick out, and I have a really hard time
Hmm.
picking one of our regional like Indiana brands that
Yeah.
just stick out.
Huh.
I
Well,
know, right? I'm like,
see, a
I didn't
lot
know
of
these.
people need help.
I was like, well, Dave, you've got plenty of you
Oh
know,
my
plenty
gosh.
of clients you could probably work with. No, yeah.
Well, now I'm going to have to do some research. You got my
I
mind
know.
going.
Hey, I love it. I love when I get to stump my guest because that means I ask really good questions.
Yeah, that is a good question. Like, and that's part of the problem, especially with social media. There's just so much noise,
Yeah.
and a lot of it, unfortunately, is just copy and pasted Chat GPT stuff. And that is, the more you see that, the more you pick up like some of the phrases. You're not broken. You're just fill in the blank. That is an AI phrase, and I just delete any post that starts that way because it's just, if you don't care enough to put some meaning behind what you're posting,
Yep.
why would I want to work with you?
Right. Yep. Good point. Okay. Speaking of AI, are there any good AI apps, AI companies that small business owners should definitely look into to help out?
Well, yeah, there's actually one system that I use and I recommend it because it's based on neuroscience. It was built by a sales coach who did a lot of research and studying of neuroscience processes, how we think, how our brains, interpret messages and how that starts. Because as you dive into that, I geek out about a lot of different things, and neuroscience is one of them. The fight or flight response, right? Our basic bit of brain where we first interpret messages has that trigger in it. And so if you start a conversation by saying, hey, I've got a program and it costs $475, that is, even if it's an incredible deal that's worth, you know, 20 times that, if you start by saying the price, it immediately says in that brain, this person wants my money, which is a threat. And it triggers that flight response. So this AI system, it's called Ask Alex, and it's based on Claude. It's an agent that's built into Claude AI. And I like Claude better than ChatGPT anyways, because it just works better for, especially for small business kind of
Okay.
messaging. But you can post anything, a website, a series of emails, and it will coach you through how the brain is interpreting the entire message and help define and suggest ways of reframing different aspects of it in a way that gets, I don't want to make this sound like it's, what am I trying to say? A dangerous kind of tool, because for the wrong purposes, it could be.
It could be. Yeah.
But, it presents your message in a way that lays out the path to the brain in a friendly approach.
Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. I'm going to
Yeah.
have to look into that.
Yeah. And, it's a subscription on top of Claude. So it's extra money, but to me, it's well worth it. And he's working on some developments. The gentleman that created, his name's Patrick Seaton. I can get you in touch with him if you want, but he's a great guy, and it's a really cool system. It's got about 6 different modules in it. So the brain trigger is one of them, but there's thinking styles, because we all think in different ways. So it
Right.
also can help you reframe a message so that it connects with the other thinking styles instead of your own, because we all write the way we think. But if you're talking to somebody who thinks different and the message doesn't resonate with the way they think, again, they're just going to kind of check out and not understand what it is that you have to offer.
AI, what a development in
Yeah.
like everything has changed, even in the last 3 years. Everything has
And
changed.
it's just getting faster, and it's going to keep getting faster. Like AI is writing AI at this point.
Yeah.
I've seen all kinds of just crazy things coming up. And again, kind of what we mentioned before, that's going to drive people to really seek authentic people to people connections, like in-person networking, because even with this kind of thing, Zoom calls, at some point, there's going to be an AI agent that can literally have a Zoom call for you, and they'll be talking as if they're you with a AI generated face video. It's already partially there. I've seen some demonstrations of different things that are kind of tiptoeing into that space. So you'll be having a Zoom call and you think you're talking to the person, but they're off, sailing in the Caribbean or whatever.
Wow. That's okay. So I had a client a couple of years ago ask, and he goes, "Do you think you will ever get to a point where AI will take over to where, as the coach, you won't have to be on the call, and I, as the client, won't have to be on the call, and it'll be like two, clones of us having the conversation
Right.
and then dictating it out what we need to do and what we need to work on?" And I was like, you know what? That's really scary to think about. I have no idea. But now that you're talking, that is very
It's
possible.
right. And how do you put the guardrails around that kind of thing?
I
Like
don't.
they
I
just
don't
go off
know.
you found yourself signed up for $10,000 program and you're
Yeah,
like, wait.
right? That's a great point. I have no idea. I would hate to be the legal team
Yeah, right.
on those bad boys. Yeah, because that would have to be locked down real tight. Wow, I don't know, but that brings up a whole different
Yeah. Yeah.
conversation for sure. So we know, business is never smooth sailing, right? So what's one of the biggest challenges that you have faced, and how did, and growing your business, and then how did you overcome it?
Well, I'll be upfront. I'm still overcoming it, honestly.
Okay.
It was the shift from photography to branding, because I built my photography business part-time while I was still in engineering, but it was 15 years.
Okay.
And I went full time with it in 2022 when the company that I worked for kind of was bought out and moved to far side of Illinois, pretty much on the Mississippi River. So I took that opportunity to go full time with photography. And right about that same time is when I started recognizing a lot of what I had mentioned before in the branding conversations. And then the end of 2024 is when I started deep diving into this, and I launched Brand Visioneering at the beginning of last year. So that switch, as I started posting more content about branding, it threw people. Okay, you could create these crazy cool photos, but now you're talking about branding, right? So
Yeah,
it was that shift. It took a year, all of last year, to really get the traction on that. And I knew it would,
absolutely.
but, even though you go into that with your eyes open, it still always takes more work and more time than you think,
Mm. 100%. Yes.
right?
Yep.
But, right now is where I'm starting to see and get the benefit of having been present with that through the entire year. And I've completely stopped posting content about my photography. I have conversations where I talk about it, But anything that I'm posting on social media and even in the networking events that I go to, I'm focused on the brand strategy conversation because, like I mentioned, that's where I have the biggest impact on the people that I work with.
Yeah. So what's your percentage branding versus photography? Where are we at now, a year later?
Yeah. Um, I'd say it's probably right at about 70% branding
Okay.
and still 30%. And I don't know if I need it to shift one way or the other because part of that, right? The photography is a service that I can offer to people that go through my program. And once they've gone through that, I know really well what their brand is all about. So it's like they're primed to be able to work with me or any other photographer. I'm not going to be precious about that. They can take the bland. I always do that brand blueprint, that document, and they can hand it to a graphic designer or another photographer. And anybody who reads through that is going to know everything about who that person is as a brand.
That's cool. That's awesome. So we have challenging days, tough days in the business. How do you stay motivated and keep pushing through those difficult times, those challenging days?
That's one of the biggest components of what I do. And it's part of the name, brand visioneering, the vision building. To me, when I went through a process, and this was late 2024, I actually went to a entrepreneurial retreat in Orlando, Florida. They took us through a very deep meditative visualization that was all about seeing your best future self.
Mm,
So when I experienced that and saw everything that I really wanted to create in this branding space, the kind of studio space that I want to work in, like I want to have this castle kind of themed studio because I'm a big nerd. I love Dungeons and Dragons and Star Wars. So I want a kind of a modernized castle with the round table. And the round table is important to me because that's how I discuss things with my clients. I'm not preaching at them. I want everybody around a table sitting there having in-depth conversations about all this stuff because I'm not always going to be the smartest guy in the room and I'm okay with that. Somebody else is going to have an insight when someone is talking that they might come up with an idea or reframe things in a way that just connects with everybody. And I love that about that kind of working environment. So seeing things at that level is what became incredibly motivating for me. So that's what I always recommend for people if they're struggling with, I don't know how to keep going, connecting and getting deep into what it is that your vision for this is. And I always start with 3 years out, but you can go 5 or 10. 3 years is kind of yeah, I can imagine I'm going to have built something that's successful and bigger than where I'm at now. So I start there and just say, what does it look like? What does it look like in 3 years when you're working with your best clients and you've built something that actually works for you? That whole day of a calendar booked with your best people, a team. If you want to build a team, if you're still solo, that's fine. But if you're working with a team, how do you lead? What does that look and feel like? And really get very clear on that. And suddenly out of that, you have this idea that is both something to aim for and very energizing.
I love that. Our work, we all just went through like a big bifurcation for our company. So now I just get to focus on the things that I'm passionate about and the parts of my role that I love. It makes a massive difference, right? But you have to put the work in how you want that vision. And a lot of people, until they do it, they poo poo the whole idea of visioning. Vision boards get like the bad rap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
People are like, "What are you talking about?" The secret. Everybody just it all got a bad rap, in the 90s and the 2000s, and just got a huge bad rap. But if you do it right, man, it's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause everybody's just thinking, oh, you're just daydreaming about
Yeah,
something, like kind of a conversation about the guilt trip before, right? You just are sick of your job and you want to daydream and do all these woo woo things. And I can understand a little bit of that, but yes, exactly that. When you really do it and go through a process that leads you into truly imagining what you're capable of, that just opens so many different things in how you approach what it is that you do and how you see yourself, because that's a big part of it for me is imagining your best self isn't what ends up happening it's kind of reprogramming your subconscious to identify with opportunities that connect with that vision.
absolutely.
So now when something comes up that you might have previously just overlooked for whatever reason, but now your brain just says, "Oh, that's something that we need to pay attention to." And that's what, to me, manifestation really is. And however you want to approach that, again, that one really
That's right.
triggers a lot of people on the woo woo
Yep,
side of
that
things. But there's a reality to how our brains interpret and scan when just in your day to day stuff, or even scrolling social media, right? Because we check out on all the stuff. But if you've got a very clear vision on that thing that is the most important to you and where you want to go, suddenly the one post that somebody does that says something, you're going to like, oh, okay, I need to talk to that person.
yeah. And I bet they're the brand that actually speaks to you.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So back to your question about,
Yeah.
have you seen any good brands? I struggled to come up with that because I've seen so many bad ones.
Yep. Yes. Yes.
It's just overwhelming. Anyway.
It is overwhelming. No, and, we've always talked about, like, when we coach people on vision and stuff, your brain was made to keep you safe.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So it is like your DCR part of our brain. It's like, no, don't jump off the cliff. No, don't start that new business. You don't need to do that. Like, stay here, stay in your 9 to 5, stay comfortable. Don't go be crazy with your brand. Like, it wants to keep you safe. So that's where visioneering, like you were talking about, just get outside your comfort zone and big things happen.
Especially, again, a lot of the people that I've ended up working with, the ones that have a corporate background and then go on to do their own thing, right?
Yeah,
If you've got 25 years experience in the corporate world, your brain is programmed to speak, act, and think like a corporate leader.
100%.
And while that's not bad, going into running your own business is a completely different animal. And how you show up and how you talk to your clients and how you lead your team needs to shift dramatically from that corporate space, or else you're going to just sound like a corporate person, which for a small business is bland. Nobody cares.
Right. 100%. Yes. No, I get it. Okay. So, with all the things that you are doing, Dave, what do you do to kind of stay balanced, recharged as that busy entrepreneur? You mentioned you triathlon.
I did triathlons. Well,
Okay.
gosh, that's been a while because we have an
Okay.
11-year-old daughter. So when she was born, a lot of that,
Yep.
you know, but all good. Like, I love hanging out with my daughter. We play Fortnite, okay? Video games, it's all those things, and Minecraft. So there's that.
Yep.
But also, take her to the park and just enjoy the day with her, and balance that as much as I can. Certainly, there are times where it's like, okay, I just need to spend even the entire week just building and grinding and doing the things. As much as I talk about, stepping into time freedom and all that by building the thing, there are those seasons where it's a lot of work. It just is.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, especially now that she's 11, I have a conversation with her when that kind of thing comes up and say, look, I know you've got a lot of things that you want to do with dad, and I love that, but right now I need to focus. And she's like, okay. So it's a mix. And then I still go to roller derby games occasionally, not nearly as much as when I first started my photography business. And honestly, I met my wife she was a skater. Yeah. And our daughter had joined the junior league for a little bit last year. Not sure if she's going to stick with that just because she's a kid. She's interested in it for a while and then she's like, wants to do something else. I get it.
That's right.
But yeah, for me, it's spending time with the family. And if I'm by myself and I just need to decompress, I'll watch Star Wars.
I love it. I love it. I was gonna say mine is typically Star Wars, but then I do love the Harry Potter series.
Yeah.
There are certain ones that are just so you can just pop it in, you know, and
Yep.
go.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. All right, one last big question. So, if you had to boil it down, what are the top 3 pieces of advice that you would give somebody looking to either grow their business or their leadership skills?
Yeah, for me, and this is it's wild because I've had these conversations with people that have come to me. The foundational elements of building a brand are also just foundational elements of your own identity. And specifically, one of the ladies that went through the webinar came out of it and said, "You know what? I'm going to use this in my family. Like we're gonna sit down and talk about these things." But core values, really getting clear on what matters to you, building that vision, where you want to go with all of this, and then defining what I call your unique edge. The industry marketing term is unique value proposition or unique selling proposition, but I like edge because I like swords. I like,
Yeah. All the fun stuff. Yes.
what is your competitive edge, right? What really makes you different from everybody else doing the exact same thing? Really getting clear on those things makes a lot of the other work just so much easier. I'm not saying easy, but easier. There's always going to be challenges, but you start to be able to talk about things in a way that shows people how you're different when you understand what it is. For me, it's the combination of vision and engineering. Combining that engineering background, 23 years of doing this, helps me see how branding is really, like I said, like in that intro, it's an engineering problem. There is some intuitive kind of creativity to it, but when you break it down, there are variables that you can test and then move forward on actual information rather than just guessing about what your brand needs to look like.
So good. So helpful. So, Dave, thank you so much for hopping on today.
Absolutely. I
I
appreciate it.
appreciate it. This was so good. Like I could kind of keep going and keep
Oh, yeah.
talking. Um, so we'll have to schedule that coffee and reconnect.
Yeah, I
But
would love to.
this was fabulous. I appreciate you being on. Everyone, this wraps up another episode of Talk with Coach. A huge thank you for Dave to sharing his valuable knowledge about branding, about core values, and how to really help you grow your business. If today's episode resonated with you, or if you have a burning question or topic you'd like for us to discover and talk about in the future, we'd love to hear from you. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Until next time, remember that every step forward is a part of your success story. Keep striving for greatness, keep learning, and don't forget your journey is just beginning. Have a blessed day, everybody.